And here's what PK said on a football show yesterday about what that means for the Titans. This, again, was a football show here on the 440 Sports Network.
We said this whole season is about Cam Ward's progress. Well, if you do all of this other stuff that makes Cam Ward's progress a tertiary story, you bury yourself. Brian Callahan's going to bury himself. And if he's doing stuff like if he and his team are doing stuff like they did on Sunday in Denver, he's not going to survive. And if he doesn't survive, it hurts Cam Ward in the long term. But if we have stories like this beyond Sunday in terms, and we're not going to, I can't imagine we're going to have the rules kind of thing. But if he's doing stuff like he did backed up there with the play calling and it doesn't work out and all of that, and we have these stories that are the lead topics of conversation on Monday and Tuesday, and we don't get to Cam Ward having a solid day and having these moments that looked good, maybe, the whole thing's going to come crashing down around him. Cam Ward's going to be left standing. It's going to be another coach who's coming in and bringing his own players. That's all going to set everything back. And it's going to be really disappointing.
Okay. Paul's right. If we have more Mondays that are like this Monday where we have to sit there and say, what is the matter with this coach? Then they're going to have to fire Callahan. And if they fire Callahan, then the Titans will be starting over next year. And this year will have been a waste. You will be in the same situation that Drake May is in New England. And he was not impressive on Sunday. The same situation that Caleb Williams is in Chicago. And while he started off 10 for 10 on Monday night, he was not all that impressive. But here's the real issue. Kuharsky is assuming by saying, hey, we won't have something as off the wall crazy as the head coach not knowing the rules. So we can't have we can't have Mondays after Sundays like we had this Monday if Callahan wants to keep his job. But I don't know how after a year of watching Brian Callahan as the head coach of the Titans, I don't know how you can assume that we're going to have Mondays where we're not looking at Callahan saying, what the fuck, man? The Titans were a bad team last year. From a talent standpoint, they were a bad football team. They didn't have a right tackle. J.C. Latham, the left tackle, was too fat and should have been playing right tackle instead of left tackle, which they admitted the second that somebody else took over. L'Jarius Sneed, that was a disaster. But they weren't a 3-win football team last year. They were a 3-win football team because Brian Callahan's not a very good coach. Of the 3 games they won, only the Houston game was a game that you can't just chalk up to the fact that the other team was just as inept as you. The other 2 games you won at Miami against Snoop Hunley, a 5th-string quarterback, and at home against New England in overtime, in which you almost blew that game. The truth is, Brian Callahan was in over his head last year. And the hope is that if you're in over your head in year 1, then you learn from your mistakes when you go into year 2. And you decide right then and there, okay, here's what didn't work for me. Here's what I'm going to change. Here's what's going to be better. Here's what's going to, you do all of those things. And Callahan didn't do it. Callahan didn't change his coaching staff outside of the special teams coach. Callahan clearly has not learned how to manage a game as a head coach while also calling the plays. I think he kind of stinks at both, but he definitely cannot do them both. And the one thing people aren't talking about enough, and maybe I'm focused on this because I'm the one who throughout the course of the offseason kept saying, this is fucking stupid, is that offseason Pee-wee program. When Callahan had his first press conference at OTAs, he was asked a question about the mistakes last season, specifically the self-inflicted mistakes and the penalties. And that's when Callahan opened the door and said, this year, I've thought long and hard about what happened last year, and I just didn't think that we were a close enough team. And since we weren't a close enough team, I've decided that this offseason's going to be different. So we're going to break the teams up into 8 separate teams with about 9 guys on each team. And if a guy makes a mistake, he loses points for his team. And if a guy does something positive, he gets points for his team. And I called this the Pee Wee program because that sounds like something that you would tell a 9-year-old. Hey, bonus points for whoever finishes first, and all the kids go run first. But when we're talking about million-dollar athletes, grown men, some of whom have families and multiple houses and all kinds of shit going on in their lives, you mean to tell me that in May, a game of tug of war is going to make the difference between a penalty that may cost you the game? And there were a lot of people in the media that actually thought this might work. I was dumbfounded. But people whose opinions I respect that were like, well, you know, you got to give the offseason program a chance. At least he's trying something new. And I kept looking at these people saying, what? What are we talking about? What? Like no, the Pee Wee program is not going to work. If this kind of stuff worked with these imaginary prizes motivating guys who, again, these are their careers we're talking about, their dreams we're talking about. If this is going to motivate a guy to win imaginary points for his team, I'll be shocked. And again, people in the media whose opinions I actually thought were good, and in some cases still do, thought, oh, no, this Pee Wee program, this will work. I believe Callahan actually was so invested in this Pee Wee program that he went over the Pee Wee program with people, select people. I was not one of them, but he went over the Pee Wee program to kind of say like, hey, this is why this is going to make a difference. And in the first game post Pee Wee program, they had 13 penalties for 131 yards. If that shows you that Brian Callahan didn't learn anything from year 1 to year 2, then I can't help you.